Hello everyone, a very good evening to all of you present with us today. I am Rishabh Agnihotri from Knowledge Catalyst Society, and on behalf of the society, I take this pleasure to welcome you all to this amazing session on competitive programming insights. Knowledge Catalysts are a student community driven by the motto by the students and for the students. We at Knowledge Catalyst focus on developing skills and making each and every member industry ready by providing them with practical and hands on knowledge rather than just theoretical concepts. We work in many domains such as coding, DSA, development, non-tech, modern tech, designing, and cybersecurity. We not only help the members in developing the skills, but also aid them with providing people with like-minded skill sets and thoughts so that they can grow and learn better. So now I would like to hand over the stage to Vanchita as she would be describing the event.
Hello everyone, I'm Vanchita and today I and the KC community feels privileged to invite Sarthak today. He is a second year IIT Bhubaneswar student. He is 7th starred in CodeChef and also known to be the Codeforces master. He ranked 42nd in the Google Kickstart competition and 66th in the Quora challenge. We welcome you Sarthak. Guys, also to mention that in between the session, a feedback form will be introduced amongst you all. The participants who will fill that feedback form will get the participation certificates, links, and the resources which will be provided during the session. One more thing to add is that in the last of the session, in the end of the session, a rapid fire round will be introduced amongst you all, in which you all will be welcomed to answer your questions, to write your questions you feel Sarthak should answer. Now, I would like to hand over to Sarthak to continue this session.
So, hello everyone. I hope I'm audible to all of you.
Yes, Sarthak, you are.
So, I'd like to begin by telling you about a little bit about how I started CP. I started CP back in October 2019, and basically, what happened was that we have a coding society in IIT Bhubaneswar. It's called Neuromances, and they held an induction contest. It's just a fancy way of saying they had a large number of participants, so they tried to filter it out using a competition which was CP based. And what I realized is while giving the contest, I had some basic knowledge about basics C++ and C. So what I realized is CP is a little different from normal coding in the terms that in normal coding, what you're trained to do is turning the direct words of the problem into code, which is what we are more likely to be used of when learning basic C++ syntax or C syntax. But while CP differs is it's just not enough to completely just convert that English into code. It's basically about breaking that problem into some mathematical problem, solving it on a piece of paper, and then putting it out. It could be solved with a little bit of maths or maybe even data structures. And it's about reducing the time it will take to perform that operation naively. So that's often followed by some kind of observations or mathematical tools. So I'd like to present the first problem I solved to basically try to clear out what issues I had while solving my first problem. I hope my screen is visible to all of you. Is my screen visible to all of you? Yeah. Yeah. So basically, this was my first problem, and it's how I started CP. The problem is fairly simple. I'll tell you what the basic problem stands for. You give an n bulbs in a row, and what would happen is a person would go on and take numbers from 1 to n and switch the bulbs which are multiples of that number. So I'll try to give it through an example. Let's suppose n is equal to 5. So what would happen is there'll be 5 bulbs in the row, and the person would first go on and flip the switches. Let's assume first initially all of them are off. So what the first person would do is switch on all the bulbs because all of them are multiples of 1. Then what he'll do is flip all the ones that are on multiples of 2. So he'll switch bulbs 2 and 4. Now what he'll do is he'll flip the switches on multiples of 3 because 3 was initially on, he'll switch it off. And What he'll do is like he'll flip the switch on 4. So now because 4 is off, it will be turned on, and then he'll do that for 5 and switch off the bulb on 5. So what basic thing to note in this is, this can easily be solved using any kind of basic C++ or any language of your choice, using two for loops or while loops, whatever you're comfortable with. Basically, doing or what you would do on a piece of pen on paper. But what you'll realize is doing that is just not enough, because if you had made some key observations, you'll realize that the answer is quite much simple to which bulbs would be switched on, which bulbs would be switched off. If you try to write down for a few test cases, maybe trying out for a few n's, or maybe giving you a little bit of mathematical intuition to what it is, I'll spare you the maths details. The answer follows is basically every perfect square number, that is numbers of the type 1, 4, and 9, are switched on after you are done with this process, and the rest is switched off. So basically, obviously, the two for loops that you might have written and whatever the complexity is would also have realized this. But because the machine is not smart enough to do so, it's attempted for the programmer to do it on his piece of paper and simply reports out the answer that only the numbers which are perfect squares are going to be turned on. So that would be considerably better than those two for loops. This is what basically CP is all about. It's about turning that basic solution that you had converted into English, from English to code, to more optimized solutions. Now, basically, what I did was, when I started, I knew a little bit of C++, but I wasn't even strong enough. I knew what basic for loops, iterations were, but I had no. I was rusty in the syntax also. So what I did was, because I was not able to solve any question in the contest, so the friend of mine who was able to top the contest, I went to him and tried to learn from him. That's basically my strategy even till date. I try to learn from anyone who's just a little above ahead of me, because what that does is that gives me a better insight and a faster way to learn. I'll explain more about it through some of the questions that we had in your Google Forms. Now, I think it's better we decided that to keep the session interactive, and as we had received very good questions from the Google form, we'll keep it in a question answer format.
Yes, Bhaiya. Thank you for that. Thank you for the wonderful insights you gave us about competitive programming and the differences between competitive programming and normal coding. I hope the participants also learned something of it. Now, guys, we are having an interactive session where some of you will get the access to turn on your mics, and some of the students will actually ask the questions which were previously asked in your Google Forms, and some of you can ask in live as well. So, yes, guys.
Hello, Bhaiya. Actually, I would like to ask what is the importance of math in CP?
Basically, what I tell about maths is, the short answer is, it's very important. It's the basic thing that separates data success from CP. What happens is, it's related to a basic myth. People that are actually good in maths are really good in maths from before CP. They're generally good in maths before CP, so they don't realize that maths is important. And people who are not good in maths generally tend to hate maths, so they say that it's not important. But I'll tell you, maths is actually important. From this fair example, that there's a friend of mine who's actually not good at DSA at all. He hasn't learned DSA. It's not that he's not good, he hasn't just done DSA. He's from a mathematical institute college, so maths is his primarily goal. What he does is, he just gives code forces contests for fun, because he knows basic Python, and he's able to solve first three questions of code forces division 2, that's in like less than 30 minutes, using simple math. So that's how important maths is. Basically, for those of you who don't know, top three questions of division 2 code forces are still hard for even me to do in less than 30 minutes, and that guy is almost able to do it without any data structures and algorithms. So maths is that important. And what would eventually happen is, when you join the community, and you'll realize, you look at top ranks in India, they're generally followed with tier 1 colleges students, or students with some background. that tends to acknowledge the myths that people from these colleges are some kind of advantage, and that's why they're good in CP. But that's not really the case. What actually happens is, even though they might or might not realize this, is these people tend to have a little better mathematical background, be it due to their JE preparation or some kind of Olympiad preparation that they had done before, and that eventually helps them. I'll tell you, in my personal case, I was particularly good in maths. Therefore, when I gave my first code puzzle contest, I was able to do 6 questions based on solely math. I had no clue about data structure. But the thing is, simply knowing maths just gives you advantage. It's something that can be learned. I'll try to explain that basically your question format solving process will be in 3 phases. One, you'll try to come up with the English to code. That's basically what you had been already doing. The second would be breaking down the maths of the problem, and that is an important part. Sometimes you'll like to think that it's intuition, but when you try to break it down through maths, it's important, and it's something that can be learned. It takes some time. So what I suggest is to break down your preparation into 2 parts. Maths should be done in a nice way, in a nice format, and you should break down the DSA part in parallel to what your maths preparation would be. Some basic maths is required. To name a few topics, let's say you should do number theory, you should do probability, and you should be comfortable with basic concepts of PNC. Because if you solve any contests on CodeChef, Code Forces, you'll realize that knowing the data structures is not enough. You'll have to break down the question at some point to some maths, because what would happen is CP's is primarily goal is not to teach you data structures, even though it might be your goal to learn data structures in CP. So what happens is when questions are made, there are quite some questions in code forces as well that tag just under maths. So basically, the code for that would follow only 4 lines of code, and it's simply just brilliant maths that you would have done on a piece of paper. I think that should clear it out.
Yes, Bhaiya, that does. That thank you for that. Now I guess someone else also might have a question, guys.
Yes, I want to know what's the importance of coding culture.
Well, what I'll basically try to explain what a coding culture is before that. What happens is basically coding culture is nothing but having a peer group that you can share your daily progress with. It can often act as a learning group or a support group for most people. And well, I'll try to tell you that it's not tier 1 college or tier 2 colleges or the type of college you're in. It's basically if someone before you had that coding culture, you'll benefit from it because it's already there in your college. And if it's not, it should come from you. You shouldn't make excuses, because I'll tell you, I'm from a tier 1 college and it doesn't help. When I joined my college, there was no coding culture. It was non-existent. There was like one person doing CP full time, and the rest of them had no clue about CP. So when I started CP, I was completely without a coding culture. But what happened was eventually me and my friends started doing CP, and gradually together we excelled at it. So that created a good peer group, and we had lots of discussions among ourselves. And what happened is we ended up teaching each other a lot of stuff. And to tell you how that affected our preparation was, let's suppose if I was preparing on my own and doing CP full time as well, it would take me about 3 years to get where I am. That's the average time it takes anyone to get at where I am. But what happens is, because all of us were doing it together, we didn't have to basically do things in a separate way. Let's suppose my friend had done a topic. It was way easier for me to learn from him than to try and struggle with the notes and the basic documentation that was given on various sites. So that's what I suggest, and that's how important coding culture is. Now, there could be 2 cases, obviously, like one where I didn't have a coding culture and one where you did. Where you already have a coding culture, it's actually beneficial for you, and you must take the most out of it. It's suggested when you already have a coding culture to maintain a decorum and a respect from those you're learning, and take the most out of it, because it's not just about CP. They'll teach you a lot of things. It's just like a senior junior relationship anywhere you'll get. But when you don't have a coding culture, it's not that big of a deal. Basically, what you can do is start creating your own coding culture. it'll take you a little, like the team here at Knowledge Catalyst, they also realize that they're all from mostly from first years, and they've created the society from their own. So basically, the coding culture will start from you. It must start from you, because once you start CP and you get a group of friends and start talking to them, have meetings with them, have calls with them, it'll eventually grow. And having that excuse that because this is COVID and that's why we're not able to form those communities, and that's why the coding culture part is missing, even though we tried, is a lame excuse. Because I remember in second year itself, starting itself, the COVID period started, and we were asked to move from our campuses to our houses, and we were able to maintain that coding culture because it had just started in the institute, but we were able to maintain those groups over WhatsApp, over Zoom meetings, and those discussions still continue. Even as of today, there are like 4 and 5 friends from different colleges that I have, and after contests, we often discuss our various approaches that we could come up with. That helps us in a way that we realize that we're just not limited to what we are reading. That makes our preparation faster. To give you a full better relation to that is, what happens is, let's suppose you have an exam tomorrow. I believe that most of you would have gone through this phase, that there's a friend of yours that particularly paid attention in your class and has a better understanding of some topics than you, than this group studies. But what the professor tried to teach you in 3 months is something that you often don't are able to grasp, maybe because of absent, or maybe because it's the way the professor taught you. It's not for you. What happens is, you try to come up that 3 months of knowledge in just like a couple of hours with that friend of yours, and it actually works, because I'm assuming that you do well in most of your exams. So what would happen is that couple of hours with your friend was able to sum up that 3 months of knowledge. So that's the amount of time you can save when working together. I think that should clear about coding culture.
Yes, Bhaiya, that does, and thank you for that. So, guys, anyone else who got a question?
Yeah. Hello, I'm audible, I guess.
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah, Sarthak, I wanted to ask how to read editorials during approaching any question.
Okay, first things first, to all of you who are unaware, basically, editorials are nothing but a fancy word to solutions you get to those problems that you solve in your contest. So what would happen is, when you read those editorials, at first glance, you'll understand nothing out of them, because it's just the way they're written. They're written in a lot different fashion to what you're comfortable with as of today. I'm assuming that's with the most general population, because that's what I faced. And what happens is, there's a certain way of reading those editorials. The certain way, one way suggests us that first you look at the prerequisites that are suggested in that, and you realize what among the prerequisites you're missing. First, cover those prerequisites if not given in from a resource of your choice. If it's a resource is provided in the editorial, try that first. Once you're done with the prerequisites, it's suggested that after each paragraph, or maybe each point, that each claim that the editorial is trying to do, you try to sum that editorial try to prove that claim by yourself first. It's basically taking that up as a math problem. Basically, that editorial is something that you might not understand in the first go, and it's okay if you don't understand the editorial at the first go, or the second go, or the third go. What happens is, it's best practice to read those editorial at least thrice before giving them up, and give yourself ample amount of time for your mind to wonder about that editorial. So just don't expect that you'll understand that editorial in the first go. Give it about a couple of weeks before you think that you're finally done with that editorial. What eventually would happen is, let's say about first 2 weeks of your giving of contest, you'll understand none of those editorials. But there'll be one special day after which all those editorials will start making sense to you. And what that would eventually do is, basically, you start to write your solutions in almost a similar format to what the editorials were writing in. Now, what that helps is, your solutions become more structured. They're not just vague solutions that are coming out of nowhere, and you don't know if you'll be able to apply the same method again and again. But when you follow those editorials, your codes become in a more structured manner. and that structure often helps you come up with better solutions and faster solutions. And what I suggest is not just reading the editorials, try to follow some people's, some good coders' codes as well. If you're reading through those codes, your coding style obviously will start to improve, and you'll start to realize that there's a lot of improvement in those short codes that you were able to write. Also, I saw someone in the chat that was requesting for me to switch on the camera. I'm really sorry for that. I will not be able to do that right now. Just due to my connection. And another thing I wanted to say about editorials is don't it's in general to CP. CP actually, because there are so many prerequisites that, as I said, that you need to know about maths. There's a lot of consistency required even when reading editorials. Don't just give up on like first 2 or 3 tries. At least give it ample amount of time, and by ample amount of time I mean like 15 to 20 days, a couple of weeks at least, before letting that sink in, because that's the amount of time it will take. It will not come to you in a day or two. It still does not come to me in a day or two. It takes up that amount of time. And if you want to pick up CP, realize that that amount of time can be depressing. You need motivation. So finding your motivation is also important. It could vary from person to person. Anything else?
Yes, thank you, Bhaiya, for that. I think we still got some more questions. So, guys, anyone else want to ask?
Hello Sarthak Bhaiya. Bhaiya, I wanted to know that when we start our competitive programming journey, we are not able to solve many of the questions, and then we realize that either I should learn more or either I should leave this. So, how to deal with it?
So the best way to deal with it is, first, do not start with any random platform. Start with beginner-friendly platforms like HackerRank or LeetCode. There are a lot of beginner-friendly courses out there, free of cost, and it's a lot more beginner-friendly because you'll realize they're easy questions. They're just step-wise building your concepts up from the ground up. So try those first, so that there's a sequential, there's not a big leap of faith you're taking always. Secondly, I suggest is what you'll realize is it's same about the maths. Once you're done with those basic prerequisites, those questions will start to come to you naturally. Okay, it's not because what would happen is do some amount of questions before you just start moving to other concepts. Another thing that is suggested is, I'm not telling you to give contest on the first week itself because that's a real blunder. But let's say you spent about 2 to 3 weeks on these beginner-friendly platforms, then it's suggested to give contest just a little level higher to you. Let's say you've spent about 2 to 3 weeks on LeetCode or HackerRank, and you've given a couple of amount of time to basically number theory and PNC, and you're clear with what those mean, and you can solve basic questions regarding them. So what is suggested is basically take that knowledge and apply in contests that are just one way above your weight level. Let's say you're just done with that, then it's suggested to follow maybe a CodeShift Division 3 challenges, maybe a long challenge or a short contest, or maybe trying those easy problems that are given in those sites like CodeForce or CodeShift, and giving them ample amount of time. And it's often suggested that, let's say you're stuck because of being a beginner, to have some peers, that's coding culture, or maybe even a mentor that, or a person, not generally a mentor, a person a senior to you that can help you in times like that. He might able to be able to suggest you some resources regarding that particular problem, or maybe you should skip some of those problems and refer to them back in a later time.
Okay.
Thank you, Sarthak, for helping us and guiding us. Now, I think it's the time to introduce you all to the rapid fire round. In this rapid fire round, you all participants are allowed to write your questions you feel you should ask Sarthak. And the selected ones, the Sarthak will answer the selected ones. You guys may start writing your questions.
Yes, guys, go on. We'll select the questions from what you post here.
Rishabh, I think the chat is off. You need to.
Yes. uh, guys, by the time they're trying to sort out three questions, there's something I wanted to share as well. There's a popular
Yes.
question that I come up with often is that which language should I do, which resources should I follow? When the resources and the path is, we actually try to prepare a flowchart for the roadmap that I think is most suitable, and we'll be sharing the link with you guys. And apart from that, basically a few of the handbooks that we could come up with and YouTube channels that we suggest, we'll also be sharing that. And what I want you to realize is that the community is mostly C++ driven. So most resources are available in C++. Even the handbook will be handing out to today will be in C++. So C++ is the language that is generally suggested for beginners to start working in. Not just beginners because C++ is faster, so it helps you in contests as well. In coding in C++, there's a bigger community to help you out with. But there's an often question that maybe sometimes Java will take C++. That basically follows from an interview perspective or a job perspective. Java generally helps when you're looking for jobs which is specific to languages. They'll often look if you're a Java developer or not. So that if going into that factor, sometimes people say maybe it's better to focus on Java for CP than C++. But I still suggest if you want to do CP in a proper fashion, C++ is a better way to go because after a point of time, resources are almost non-existent in other languages apart from C++. Like let's suppose you cross about 5 stars with PowerShell, then almost all resources are there in C++ and non-existent in the other languages. It's just too hard to look up the other language.
It's Sarthak, like many people ask, like Java is tough. So can you please explain us the reason why actually it's tough? Like in
Basically,
doing.
Java is not a language that is beginner friendly. The two basic reasons to it is if some of you familiar with OOF concept, it's basically Java has a lot larger syntax. It's more of a production language. It's not meant to do small things. Basically, C++ is a language that is very close to the machine language. So it's meant for a lot lesser number of things than Java. Java is solely not meant for small user interaction. It's meant for large scale development as well, right? So there are actual industrial applications made out in Java. So basic syntax is a lot longer. Let's suppose you had to just write a basic hello world program, then syntax in Java is a lot longer than the syntax you would follow in C++. That's why people generally tend to feel that Java is a bit more difficult than C++.
Okay. Thank you, Sarthak.
Okay. Sarthak Bhaiya, we also have another question. Like some people have asked ki how to improve when stuck in a particular rating zone.
Okay, when you're stuck in a particular rating zone, there could be, I'll try to break down in three rating zones based on CodeChef alone. Let's say you're stuck on a rating zone below 800, then it's strongly suggested that you work on the maths part and the basic part. Let's say in the roadmap that we give you, it's suggested that you follow basic STL and arrays, binary search, two pointers, up to those topics, and you cover them up. That's what's suggested, and you need to work on more on your theory. And even if the amount of contests you're giving decreases, it's okay. But let's say you're in a range from 1800 to 2200. What's suggested is you should give a lot more number of contests because what that will and keep the preparation in more in parallel. What would happen is those contests you're going to give, the more number of contests you're going to give, you're going to realize the more number of concepts you don't know, and those editorials are far better and easier to grasp from than actual theory. The reason being, you just read through a problem that you could not solve. So you can see a practical application to the concept you're going to learn to. That gives you kind of incentive to learn that concept, and it gives you better retention of that concept as well. So basically, it's suggested between a rating of 1800 to 2200 that you basically focus on a parallel kind of approach. Above 2200, there's a lot more. You're a lot more open to what you want to do and what you don't want to. It's suggested that maybe you could spend a lot. excuse me, a lot more open time to problems. Let's say now you don't just give 1 or 2 days to a concept or 3 days. excuse me. When you're doing a problem, you at least give it about a week to sink in. That's what is suggested about those ratings. Because the amount of concepts you were doing and the preparation you were following before them is not going to mix match anymore. Now you are going to work on topics that are a lot more dense. So you're going to require a lot more time to those. You're going to have to lot more time to those topics.
Yes.
Thank you, Sarthak. And like, there's one more question. Many people ask that they should should they stick to one platform or both the platforms like Code Forces and CodeChef both, or just practice on one platform.
Okay, the best way to answer that question is basically first when you're done with those beginner friendly platforms and you have those basics. Uh, what I suggest is when you should move to Code Chef is when you realize when you're giving those contests and you're easily able to almost get to an 1800 without that much of a struggle. Then it's suggested to be more of a Code Chef guy. And Code Forces is something that I suggest to not, excuse me, move on before you cross like a 2000 rating on Code Chef. The basic reason for that is because Code Chef is still a little beginner friendly. Code Force is almost, excuse me, Code Force has almost negligible resources for beginners. It's targeted toward more of getting you better at CP. So they assume that you're almost at an intermediate level. Although Code Force's Div 3 contests do give you some insight into what a beginner should know, but what would happen is those Div 3 contests are very rare in Code Forces. So Code Forces is suggested at a later time. I myself fall into this trap, and when I gave my first Code Forces contest, I wasn't able to do any of the questions given in the list. I was just able to manage like the problem A, that too in like 2 hours. It was just 4 lines of code. That's how hard I felt Code Forces was in the initial. So I suggest you take ample amount of time before switching into platforms, and at a time you just do not focus on a lot number of platforms because having one or max 2 platforms is more than enough. Having
Okay. But
more
yeah,
than
I
that.
think yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I had an internet.
Uh,
I think that should clear the platform
yes.
stuff.
Yes, Bhair. Thank you for that. Another question we got from chat is that Rahul has asked that is it must to complete all the data structures and algorithms and then solve the problem, or side by side learn and solve problem on that?
It's suggested when you're doing data structures to do them side by side. What would happen is even if you learn them beforehand, because there's the amount of practical application you'll get to them is going to be limited. Even if you try to get through good material, it'll give you one or max 3 problems that you can solve from it. When you learn them in a parallel fashion, what would happen is you'll start realizing their practical applications as and when you learn them. Even when you solved some amount of questions and you learned a new concept, you'll try to apply them into the existing problems that you just solved. So that gives you better retention capacity. So it's suggested to keep your preparation in parallel to give those contests. It helps you more than the background preparation you're going to do for DSC.
Okay, Sarthak. And there's one more question. Like, many people are demanding for the roadmap to master the CodeChef platform.
Okay, we'll be the CodeChef platform in particular. So basically, what I suggest for mastering CodeChef is you basically separate out, or even CP in general, you separate out 2 types of contests: what a long time contest and what a short time contest. What basically long time contests or long challenges basically look like is they're a big marathon, so you'll get a lot of time to Google your concepts and basically try to focus more on the concept and learn more. And the short contests are basically they are more of application based. So now you don't have that liberty of googling through and having a research phase. So therefore more of practice based than learning based. And the long challenges are learning based. So it's suggested like for beginners, at least for like first 8 months, it's suggested to almost give all the long challenges. I strongly recommend it because those long challenges are the things that made me learn. What I followed was that each long contest, I would solve some number of questions and whatever I could do. I always pick at least 1 or 2 questions that I could not do before and try to work on them. And at least 3 extra editorials was something that I always read through. So reading through the 3 extra editorials gave me 3 new perspectives to how to solve problems. I actually, when I was doing CP, I did not have as much resources as there are today, because maybe I didn't have a proper mentor or something. So what I basically did was I completely learned from those editorials itself. By the time I actually found these resources, I was almost done with my preparation. By the time I was found these resources, it was 5 months. So it's suggested that you learn through giving those questions itself, and it's come out of those that comfort zone you have at least a bit each time, so that you grow. Let's suppose that you're solving a question that you already knew and you could do it with ease. That problem hasn't helped you at all because you've learned nothing from it. You're solving problems that you just can't do, and maybe even after reading the tutorial you can't do. That also doesn't help because they are way above your weight league. It's suggested to do problems that maybe with the help of the editorial or some Google search you're able to solve. So that's like one question above what you could do on the long challenges. I think that should clear Hush, you should master these platforms.
Yes, Priya. There's another question from the chat. Karan has asked. He says that, hello Sarthak, my question is about Google Kickstart. How to prepare for it and what are its perks?
Basically, Google Kickstart is a CP contest that Google organizes on a monthly basis. So it's a year-long contest and it's open for registration anytime you want. And what would happen is eventually uh, Google tries to maintain your ranks over the time. It's a good platform to get some recognition from good experts. It's a good contest that has generally 4 questions. And what happens is that those not just Kickstart, there are a handful of contests like Google Code Jam, Google Kickstart, Facebook Hacker Cup, Quora Challenge. These contests are very reputed, so having good ranks in them helps. And there you find a lot more bigger community because there people participating in them are not just people doing CP. They're people that are actually there in the industry for like a couple of years as well, because Code Jam is a place that people who are actually there in like 5 to 6 years is still in the industry are doing CP, and there's people, a lot of people like that. So it's suggested to participate in those platforms. Just like any CP contest, they'll also have editorial solutions to the problems and give you basic insights. And it's a good experience. You'll have a great time. Generally, Kickstart is like 2 to 3 hours contest, and it just follows a rank system, and that's all you need to know. Code Jam is basically a elimination type of round. So you'll have an elimination process. So it's not that beginner friendly, but obviously, every time you participate, you'll gain something out of it.
Okay. Thank you, Priya.
Thank you, sir. And
Just a second. I'll take one
Yes.
question of my choice.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
yes, it's Tripathi's question. So, why the question basically says that why CP is important for a CSE student and is it essential or not? So I try to break the myth. CP is not essential. That's wrong. CP is not at all essential. If you don't want to do it and it's not for you, there's 1,000 ways you could go about learning data structures and algorithms. And it's not essential. But what I still suggest is to not just give up on CP or because you have other ways to do it. It's still a very efficient way of doing that CP and getting that uh, productivity, problem solving skill in your resume. What you could do is give at least a couple of weeks to CP, realize CP is not for you, if it's something you want to do. You'll eventually have to find a reason for why you want to do CP. Maybe it's for recognition, maybe you like to do CP, or maybe it's something that your friends are doing, so you enjoy it with them. But you'll have to find your own reason, because if I give you an actual reason, it's not your reason, it's my reason. And I told you my reason was basically because I was doing nothing else, and CP was at least getting code on my screen, and it was basically like playing chess. I was learning it because I was learning it. So I did it. And eventually, what you will realize is CP is a little different from development, and CSE student is not essential. Nothing is essential for a CSE student. There's a lot of things you could wide domain for CSE you could try on. But it's suggested to at least as a CSE student to at least give all those various fields a try, each of them a couple of weeks or a couple of months, to at least get the hang of it and realize which of those fields are for you and which are not. I think that
Okay.
should clear it up.
Yes, yes.
And
Yes, Bill.
Yes, Sarthak.
Just to give you a glimpse, I'll take just a minute more. This is the. I think my screen is visible right now, right? So, is it visible right now?
No.
Yeah. Yes, now it is visible. Yes.
It's So basically, this is the kind of roadmap we could come up with, and this is basically more than what we could cover in this session today. Because if we were to do a complete thing, it would be more of a 5 hour thing, 5 hour session. But when you look at this flowchart or a roadmap kind of thing that we could prepare for you today, what I'd suggest is basically cover that your preparation should be in two parts, in data structures and mathematical parts. So this data structure and algorithms part is something that you will have to do as a CSC student eventually. Even it doesn't matter the field you are in. When you want to optimize some solutions of yours, data structures and algorithms are eventually going to show up in your preparation, and that is something that most companies would look for you in as well. It doesn't matter the field you are in. If it requires some kind of optimization, data structures and algorithms are the first go-to that people think of as of today. And maths is something that maybe even as a CSC engineer you could ignore. I've seen people ignoring it. But if you want to take a
Bhaiya, just a second.
seriously,
If you could zoom in, the participants are requesting that.
yeah, my bad. So, is it visible right now?
Zoom it a bit more.
Is it visible now?
Not exactly. Yes, the chat is open. Yes, now it's visible. Now it's visible.
Yes, now it's visible.
So basically, the above part is nothing that it's mostly what we try to cover, where you should get your motivation for, what the coding culture is, and maybe why it's important to you, why it's important to me, and why I suggest to do CP. The part we couldn't cover and try to cover in the flowchart is basically what your preparation goes in two parts. And the data success part is something that, as a CSC student, is something that you'll be taught in your courses, and it's essential. That's why it's taught in your courses. The maths part, not so much. It's not essential as a CSC engineer. It's always handy to have that, but it's not essential. And but if you're doing CP and you want to get to a certain level, it's suggested that you also cover this maths part in structured. I also saw someone in the chat asking for resources. We'll provide you that. We'll also provide you with this flowchart. Hello, is my
Yes.
yes, my audible? So basically, we'll also provide you with a flowchart. What we'll also be for data structures and algorithms. There are a lot of resources on the net, and we'll give you some of the resources that I use as of my preparation. For maths, generally it's suggested that you follow some code forces editorials and blogs. That's a good skill to have. Googling is another skill to have properly, because it doesn't matter which CSC field you are in. Googling is some skill that you'll require eventually, because you can't know everything freehand. When you're doing something, you're bound to have some things that you don't know in the first hand. So Googling properly is an important skill to have. Maths, when you do maths, basically it'll come down to it. Basic topics that we wanted to cover in maths are these, and these are some topics that you're going to have to cover eventually. I've seen a lot of college curriculums also having them. At least my college had at least first three of them, not game theory, but it had first three of them. It's the curriculum itself. And what I suggest is to at least give it a proper go through and see if it's not for you before making any decision. Whether CP is not for you or it is for you, at least give it a couple of weeks. Doesn't matter what you take in up as a field. If you're not enjoying it as much as to spend at least some amount of hours without realizing how much time you spend, it's no point taking up that thing. And that amount of drive will take some time to come.
Okay. Bhaiya, you're not audible.
Am I audible now?
Yes, now you're audible.
So basically, about the courses I took as for CP, I did not take any courses. I actually told that I learned more or less on a path where I learned through given contest itself. But I found a PDF handbook that I'm going to share with you. That's something I tried to follow along the way, or at least the basic structure. Another resource that I followed was the course structure on CP Algo. So the course structure on CP Algo is something that will help you along the way. They've given some details, but CP Algo is not that builder friendly I want to, and getting through it in the first go, it's very hard. But eventually, like when you spend a good amount of time, it's suggested that if CP Algo code courses talk, reading editorials a lot more priority than any other theory, because that's some standard theory that would have been tested by a lot of people, and that's what's been fed. Okay, it's just one last problem. I'm really sorry if I'm cutting you out. Uh, my trick to solving remembering any problem that I solved is I only remember the problems that I could not solve in the first way. I have never remembered problems that I could solve in the first go. I've never remembered those. I only remember problems that I could not solve in the first go. And basically, my trick to it is I'm a very regretful person. I think regret is something that is built into our system. When you're not supposed to do, you're not able to do something, you regret it. And as a human, you'll realize that mostly you don't remember good things about your life as well. You remember things that you regret, that you weren't able to achieve. So that's the first thing that comes to your mind. So that is something I use in CP as well. It's a thing I use for my preparation. Whatever question I was not able to solve is the question that sticks with me. So what would happen is I'll have a collection of questions that I could not solve, and they act as my meeting or lookup points. And I tried whenever I come up with a new question, I try to solve them with the existing concepts that I've learned through the earlier problem. If it's not still solvable by that with those concepts, I try to learn the new concept and put it into my stack of knowledge. Another thing that is suggested is when you learn anything, try to mix it up with your existing concepts. Let's say you've learned about 8 to 9 topics. The quality that you learn in CP is that you shouldn't just know those 8 to 9 topics that everyone knows, or maybe you learn. You should be able to intermix any of those 9 topics. If a question is mixed with 3 concepts, you should be able to tack if you know all these 3 concepts individually. So basically, what would happen is, let's suppose 2 candidates know the same amount of topics, same number of topics, and with almost equal understanding. The difference between them would be one would have a knowledge proportional to the topics he's learned, and the other would have an exponential type of knowledge. Because let's say I'm only able to do 5 topics or 6 topics by now. With that amount of combination, I can still solve 64 types of problems. 64 types of problems is a huge number compared to just 6 to 7 concepts. So the basic gist of it is that you try to mix up your concepts, and when you do CP, you'll realize there's a lot of loopholes in what you've learned. CP is a place that will help you clear those loopholes because the theory is in a lot of standard way, so that those loopholes will be removed. When you do CP for maths or any topic for maths, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. There's going to be proper structure to it. I hope I am making myself.
Yes.
Is there a question you wanted to put out, Rishabh?
Absolute.
Yes, thank you, Vaya. That was another wonderful insight from you. And guys, we will share the resources with you all along with the feedback forms. So as soon as you fill them, you will receive the resources. The resources include all the experience from what Bhaiya has told us about, and also the roadmap to DSA and CP.
The link will be shared in the chat box soon. So please
Yes.
have a look on the chat box.
Yes. So now carrying on with the questions, Vanshita.
Yes, there was a question. The participants are asking that should we make notes in order to be more productive while coding, or should we practice the question 1 or 2 times? Like,
See,
what
that's
should
something that will work for you. I'll try to answer it in a very hypocritic way. I have never ever made notes, like never in my life. Not
Okay.
CP, never in my life have I ever made notes. Okay, so I'll be very hypocritic when I say that you should make notes. The thing is, my friends do make notes. Some of them make notes very extensively. There's a friend of mine, he'll make notes about almost everything, and even he's a 7-star. So there could be very different answers to if you shouldn't make notes or you should make notes. What I suggest is, when you're making notes, don't just bluntly copy everything you're learning from in your notes. what that eventually does is that's something similar to what you were doing in school, and that does not help. Basically, just writing up things that the teacher was telling you to do. That does not help. When you're taking out notes, write what you understood from it. Writing notes does help. I'll tell you where it does help. Even I write notes, but not in a fashion that you think I write notes. What I do is when I learn a topic, and let's say I'm very confident with it within like 1 week or 10 days. So what I would do is I formal documentation on it that I feel that if anyone would read it would understand what I have just learned. When you're that confident with some topic, it will help you. And those are the notes that you should actually refer to, because you honestly believe that those notes will help someone, so that someone can obviously be you like in a couple of months if you forget something. Having notes does help, because it's not exactly notes I have. I have a repository where I'll put in all my codes in that I've just done and maybe refer them back to, because sometimes there's something with the templates that you'll have to keep. What a template is, it's just memorization of those codes, and you don't have to rewrite them all the time you want to use it. So that's a kind of way of taking notes. That'll be my take on it.
Thank you,
Yes, sir.
Sarthibya.
Sarthibya, we also have another question for you. One of the students has asked, ki, how do you remember the logics in coding, and do we actually need to remember them?
Okay, the logics in coding. Well, it's basically how I said that I remember question. It's basically when you're not able to solve a problem with your existing concepts, you need to remember that logic, because that's something you must remember. You couldn't do it initially, and if you just solve the problem and gain nothing out of it, there's no point of learning that. So, what strategy to learning is generally suggested is you should always be focusing on solving a lot, giving a lot more live contests, because giving those contests in those time pressure actually tells you what you actually know and what you don't. So when you realize what you do and what you don't, you work on it effectively. What I see most people that do CP for a lot of time and struggle with this, they do not realize what they're doing wrong. When you're giving those contests and reading those editorials, why it's suggested, so strongly suggested to absolve and read those editorials is you'll exactly be able to pinpoint what you lack. Is it time? Is it practice? Is it this topic you must study somewhere extensively? And according to that, maybe you can try to fix your problem up. If it's maybe you need more literature, you can try to contact someone like me or some senior or friend of yours, and or Google it and try to read more theory. If you realize it's more practice-related problem, it's suggested that maybe you should try and following maybe a lot more questions on a platform of your choice, maybe CodeShip, Codeforces. There are ways of or YouTube videos you could search that how to search on these platforms. There's a nice way to that also. And at least for Codeforces problems, as I know, they're put down under tags also, so you can have problems under specific tags as well. So that's how I suggest that you should remember, and it is important to remember those logics, because then otherwise you won't have learned much from those. Also, I suggest that basically you open up yourself to the community. You start participating in those blogs or taking parts in discussions and asking people, or even messages in them. People are not that helpful maybe, but they're not that ignorant either. It's almost a helpful community. When you try to contact people for guidance, they will help you. Till you're not nudgy and open to views from the other person, because you need to realize that you're trying to take knowledge from some other person. So it's better to understand what his point of view is, because you already know your point of view is, and there's nothing you would gain by arguing with him. And also, one more thing that is suggested is, let's suppose tomorrow some of you people reach an intermediate or level, it's suggested that you start trying to teach a junior of yours or friend of yours who's interested in that way. Because what I tell people that learn from me is, when you teach a topic to someone, you're 100% sure that you're confident in knowing that topic, because you're teaching a friend, not as a teacher but as a friend. So he's bound to have some doubts, and if there is a loophole in what you just learned, he's obviously going to pinpoint it, and you both are going to realize that there's a loophole in your theory and you need to cover it up somehow. Maybe resolve that by reading the theory again, or talk to someone who knows more about that topic.
Okay. Thank you, Bear, for that. We have one another question for you. As from the chats, Sagnik Mitra has asked, she or he says, how to overcome the saturation level after 4 star or specialist, and what are the new things we should keep learning?
Oh, well, basically, what I suggest is what I actually know is this saturation comes from the feeling that you know everything. And that's not honestly true, not even at my level, it's not true. Even as of today, I have seen questions that when I solve them, there's something I'm to gain out of them. There's some topic. So if you feel that you're completing all the theory, it's a lie you're telling yourself. There's no chance you've completed all the theory and you're stuck in that. So at least try to pinpoint the topics you're worse on. Let's say you're at 5 stars, so you're almost at the range that I said. Just said you're about 200 or 2000 rating. So what's suggested at that point is it's not saturation. You feel saturated. Now it's more of practice curve. Okay, maybe you're done with your theory and mixing those concepts. But because what wrong things you might have done in your learning is you wouldn't have mixed those concepts among each other. You know only n number of concepts. You're not able to mix them up. So learn them in a proper fashion that you can apply any number of concepts in a cover way. And obviously, because you're stuck at that, I'm assuming that you might start to give those contests again. So when you give those contests, you realize you must be lacking something. Is it because there's at that level, my friend and I like to pinpoint two types of problems. One type of problem is basically if given an infinite amount of time, would you be able to solve that problem with your existing knowledge, not Google? Would you be able to solve that type of problem? That's one kind of problem. And the other is basically if you had to solve it in that are problems that you wouldn't be able to solve even if given an infinite amount of time. If it's the first time, then it's more of a practice curve. Work on your timing, give more and more short contests, and you'll get there eventually with a month, 2 months, or 3 months of practice. If it's of the second kind where you wouldn't even be able to do it if given an infinite amount of time, you need to work on your theory. You need to start trying mixing more and more of concepts. You need to pick up problems that are under multiple tags, that are not just based on maths or solely on segmentary. You need to have problems that are based on multiple concepts.
Okay. Uh, thank you भैया for that. Now guys, I also hope कि आप सब ऑनलाइन सेशंस में बोरिंग तो हो ही जाता है. आप ऑनलाइन सेमेस्टर्स में आपके पास कोडिंग कल्चर की जहाँ तक अगर आपको लैक लग रहा है, so guys you can join us at KC Coding Communities. We are now span across 30 or 32 colleges across the country, and if you want KC to come to your college, kindly contact us. Also, we'll be providing with the KC Google forms, and kindly fill them. And if you want to register for KC and add into it, we'll provide the Google forms for that as well. We have provided a Telegram link for you all as well, and you can go ahead and join it. Now, wrapping up, I would like to ask Vanshita to conclude it. Vanshita, you are not audible.
And also to mention, KC is in 30 colleges now, so it has extended its network in a huge amount. So wrapping up today's session, guys, please fill this feedback form. And today we really thank Sarthak Bhaiya to that he could take out his time and just provide his knowledge to us. Like, we feel really, really privileged that you share those knowledges to us. Thank you, Sarthak Bhaiya.
Thank you, Sarthak Bhaiya, for sharing these wonderful insights with us.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I hope it was as wonderful of a session as it was for me. I'm really sorry about the camera or a little bit of lag that you had to endure. I hope I covered most of your doubts. And if there's something you feel that it's still not covered, you can always try to contact me. I'm always available through mail or LinkedIn, wherever you feel. And I'll try to take up as much of your doubts as possible. Do remember, the community will be as helpful to you as helpful you'll be to yourself. The more you try to work on yourself, the more the community will try to help you.
Yes.
And that will be all.
Yes, that's all for today, guys. I hope you all enjoyed the session. Do give us the feedbacks in the KC feedback forms, and stay connected for more such events will be conducting every month. So yes, guys, stay tuned, stay safe.
Stay connected.
Goodbye.
Thank you, guys. Bye.